Hello, boys and girls. We're going to be starting our second gizmo of the year today. And I wanted to give you some tips so we can be more successful this time. First of all, to get to the gizmo, there's a couple ways you can do this. On the Google Classroom assignment, I'm going to link this website, explorelearning.com. You can click there, and then, of course, we can do the login enroll like we normally do. And you would enter your username and password to log into your account. There's also another way. If you go to the activity sheet that will be assigned to you, I also learned that if you click on the blue title, you can also get a direct link to the gizmo that way. You're also still going to have to log in with your username and password, but it saves you a couple steps. So that's another way to log on. I'm going to actually go through the Explore Learning website, and I'm going to click on the login enroll, and I'm going to use my username and password to log in. And if you do this correctly, it should bring you to your class. Like, for example, I'm going to go to the red class. And you should see once you enter the red class that there is a new gizmo assigned that's called Summer and Winter. You shouldn't be able to view the previous one. I've kind of hidden it from you. But Summer and Winter should be visible. And if you open it up and launch the gizmo, it should look something like this. All right, and of course, you're welcome to make it bigger if you do the full screen button. But I wanted to point out a couple things to you. First of all, we have a sun in the middle, and we have two Earths on the left and right side. First of all, there's only one Earth. Each of these Earths is representing a different time. So the one on the left is June 21st at noon, 12 p.m., and the one on the right is December 21st at 12 p.m. Okay, notice that they're both tilted. And if you want to know what the current tilt is, you can find that tilt down at the bottom. Right now, it's currently set to 23.5. That is what the Earth is actually tilted at. And if you ever want to get back to that number, if you just do the reset tilt button, it will always bring you back to 23.5. But I want to point out that you can play around and you can change the tilt. If you click on the axis, which is this white line, either the top or bottom, you can actually, and if you notice, the tilt is changing. I circled it in red and it's going up and down depending on how I tilt the Earth. You can play with the tilt, and if you do reset tilt, it brings you back to what it's supposed to be, 23.5. But they might ask you to change the tilt when you're doing this gizmo. Another thing you can play with is the latitude. So the latitude is how north or south something is. Remember, I'll mark it here. Everything above the equator, this whole top half is the northern hemisphere. This whole bottom half is the south. So I'll put a little X with an N for north and an S for south down here. And that equator divides the two. We can play with how north or south we are by moving that person around. So if we click on the person, right now the person is at 36 north. Okay, that's the current latitude. Okay, so I'm circling that in red. The current latitude is 36 north. We're above the equator, 36 degrees. But if I move the person even more north is going up. Look at how that latitude rises all the way to, I can't go any more than 90. That's the North Pole. I can also bring them to 0, which is the equator. And I can also bring them into the southern direction, which is the south latitude. So it's going to ask you to play with the latitude. If you want to know where we are, basically our location's about 40. It might ask you to put it there at one point. But you can play around with the latitude any way you like. Unfortunately, you can't reset the latitude. You'll have to bring it to whatever number you want it to be, but you can reset the tilt. Another thing we can play with is we can show or not show the sun's rays. So if it asks you to show them or not show them, that's how you do that. And that's pretty much it for this is the space screen, by the way. So if it asks you to use the space screen, that's the screen we're currently in. But it might ask you to also go back and forth between the Earth screen. So basically we have a space view, and then also we're going to have a view like if we're on Earth. So I'm going to go to the Earth view next and point out a couple things. Just want to clean my screen up for a moment. I think the next thing I'm going to do is learn how to do a clear all. There's got to be a trick for that. I'm learning just like you are. So if we go to the Earth screen, we got a bunch of stuff here too. If you notice, again, it has the latitude and the tilt. It's going to rely on what you put on the previous screen. So if you want to change the latitude and the tilt, you have to do it on the space screen. It's going to have your 2 dates of June 21st and December 21st. You're going to have the option again to show the sun's rays or not show them. You can also eventually, you're going to need to use a protractor. You can move that around. Okay, you might need some help with that. I can help you with that in a little bit. Now, some important things on this. There is going to be a temperature for each date. I'm going to circle. There's a Celsius temperature and there's a Fahrenheit. There's the C and there's the F. We're only going to be using the Fahrenheit one. So the one that has the F is the temperature we're always going to use. We're not going to use the Celsius. We're going to use the Fahrenheit one when it asks you for temperature. You're going to have a thermometer. Okay. You're also going to have, now this gets confusing because people always, I'm assuming they're going to ask, what do they mean when they refer to solar panels? They might ask you a question about a solar panel. The solar panels are these things that I'm circling in each picture. These are the solar panels. They might ask you questions about them. I think the question's mainly going to be how much sun is hitting the solar panels. So if you have the sun rays visible, they're going to ask you how many of those arrows hit the solar panels for each situation. So make sure that you know what those solar panels are. Let's see. I think those are the basics. They also have the S and the N for the south and northern directions. And that's pretty much it for the Earth screen. And then we can go back and forth to the space screen as well. They're going to ask you various questions about these two screens. Make sure that you follow along with the activity sheet. I'm actually going to go to that now. The Gizmo activity sheet looks like this. I've kind of changed it around a little bit, but make sure you follow the questions in order. The first part is going to be the prior knowledge questions. You don't need the gizmos for these. There's 3 of them. Just try your best. Then there's the gizmo warm-up. You will need the gizmo and you'll need to follow the instructions. There's, I believe, 3 questions for the warm-up. Then you get to activity A. It's highlighted how they want you to set the gizmo up. So I suggest having a tab for this open and a tab for the gizmo, or if you have 2 devices, that works as well. We're going to work on activity A. I believe for activity A, there's 4 questions. Then there's B. You got to set up the gizmo again. There's some questions for B. And then there's an activity C as well. Okay, so everybody's kind of working at their same pace. Some people are going to get more done than others the first day, but it's important that we keep working. And if we have a question, either move along or get the attention of a teacher right away so we can help you. We know this can be tricky for some people, but we want to help you right away so you can move on. Okay, so I think those are the basics of today. It's all going to relate to, in the end, why we have the seasons on Earth. And they're paying close attention in this gizmo to why we have the summer versus winter seasons, and also what's happening in each of the hemispheres and at the North and South Pole and the equator. Hopefully we learn a lot about that. Okay, so everything you need will be in one place on Google Classroom. You'll find this video, you'll find the link, and you'll find the activity sheet as well. Okay, and do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And I hope that we do learn quite a bit from Gizmo number 2.